This presentation will be about what you'll need to do, our expectations and your behavior procedures about how you use the iPad. It's an expectation that you're going to live within these policies. They're probably not anything new for those of you that were at RAHS or Parkview, but it's important for you to understand that we are setting these for your good. So in the end here, the objectives that we'll be working with, we're going to review some policies about school technology and how to use your devices appropriately. We're going to discuss, and you should be able to understand how to access that student handbook via your home screen on your iPad. You'll also understand iPad behavior procedures. So what happens should you decide to do the wrong thing with an iPad, and then understand the technical restrictions that are in place on the iPad. So things have changed a little bit for those of you that are returning with your iPad this year. So first of all, let's talk about how to access your student handbook via your iPad. In order to do that, you're going to tap on the home screen app. So you do that by clicking on the button at the bottom of the screen, the home button, and you'll see all the icons. One of the things that's an icon on the bottom of your screen is the student handbook icon. So you're going to click on that. This is where you'll have access to all of the stuff that we're going to talk about today, which is your iPad expectations and policies. It is your responsibility to be familiar with these things because you're going to be held accountable for all of those things. And we expect that you can do that without too much of a problem. And because of that, we expect you to follow those as you're using your iPad. So some basic things about using your iPad, some expectations and reminders that you'll need to follow through on. Always keep your iPad in a safe place, so you'll want to identify a spot somewhere in the house where you're going to keep your iPad at all times, or when you're done with it. You're going to avoid all temperature extremes. Don't put it someplace really hot. Don't put it someplace really cold. Don't leave it in a car overnight. You want to keep it safe. It's an expensive piece of equipment. We want you to take care of it. Don't put it near sharp or heavy objects. We want you to keep it as a tool that you can continue to use throughout the year. Don't expose it to moisture, obviously. We're not going to, put it near something really wet. So don't put it in your backpack with a drink. Keep it away from food and drinks. It's a tool that you're going to need to use throughout your time here at the high school. Also, it is an expectation that you never lend your iPad to someone else, even if they just need to quick look something up. That iPad is your responsibility. If you hand it to someone else, that you're losing access to that thing, and you're going to need to keep it to yourself. If someone needs to use an iPad in school, they can come see us in the media center. We have access for them. We're also asking that you keep your iPad in your district-issued case at all times. We gave you a case. The case is there. It's supposed to be rugged, and it should be the right tool for you to be able to keep your iPad safe. We expect that you keep it in that case at all times. We're also asking that you put a passcode, which should be your student ID, on your iPad at all times. So you'll want to set a passcode by going under Preferences, choose passcode under Security, and set that passcode to your student ID so that we can have access to it if we need to, but keep that passcode on it. That keeps it relatively safe from other people using it. You're also expected to charge your iPad at night and to bring your charged iPad to class every day. That is because you're going to need to use it throughout the day. Some other expectations: keep your iPad for academic purposes only throughout the school day. So when you're using your iPad here at school, we expect that you use it for schoolwork. It's as simple as that. Just like with any other tool here in school, the computers or whatever, we're expecting that you use your iPad for academic purposes only throughout the day. We're also asking that you take pictures and video only when given permission for academic purposes. So don't take random pictures of people. Don't take pictures of people without getting permission from those people. It's important. Your privacy is important, and that's why we set this policy. want to give your full attention to others when they're speaking. So if you're using your iPad, you'll want to give your full attention to others, and you're going to need to set that aside and focus on the people in class when you're doing the things that you need to do. You want to keep all digital interactions relevant and respectful. So what we're saying here is basically that it's important for you to use it safely, to be aware of your presence online, and to be respectful as you do the things that you do online with your iPad. If your iPad gets damaged or lost, first thing you're going to need to do is report it to the Media Center. Come see us in the Media Center. We're open from 7 a.m. until 4 every day. We expect to hear from you if something happens. Some additional things that you need to know about what we're expecting in terms of how you should behave with the iPad is lending an iPad to someone else or keeping someone else's iPad for someone else is not okay. We are not. We want you to keep just your iPad. Don't use anybody else's. This is not allowed, and that's going to result in a restricted iPad. We don't want to restrict your iPad, but that's one way for that to happen. This is how devices are going to end up lost or stolen or traded, and people don't know which serial number which iPad belongs to. We need you to keep your iPad to yourself. That's your tool. Bringing your iPad to school uncharged multiple times. So if you do, we understand you can make a mistake and forget to charge your iPad. But if you do that multiple times, that's a sign that you're not taking this seriously. You will not be allowed to bring the device home for a week if that should continue to be the case. It'll be checked in and out of the Media Center during that week that we have to put this restriction on you. So it's important, and we'll reinforce it with you if we have to. We'd rather you follow some basic procedures, which is basically just keep your iPad plugged in, and we won't have to deal with that. We don't want you to create home screen apps to non-academic websites. That's important. We want you to keep your home screen, the screen that when you turn on your iPad, set up in a way that it keeps you concentrating on academic stuff. So home screen apps that link to non-academic websites such as mobile social media sites, that could result in a restricted iPad as well. So just to make it very, very clear, the iPad's the property of the schools. We have given you the right to use that iPad during the year. It's not your iPad. The school and any teacher has the right to remove or review any device at any time. So don't expect that you've got privacy. So when you're writing a private message on there, you need to know that we could and might check the access how you're using your iPad. So don't expect privacy, and also don't expect that it is your own personal property. Students should have no expectations for privacy, and all that data that you put on your iPad is fair game. Not that we want to spy on you, but know that there are many situations where we might have to. So some minor violations to keep track of, some things that we consider minor, but if it continues to be a problem, we'll have to intervene. So if you're using off-task apps in class, things that are bringing you away from classroom work, just like our policy with cell phones or anything else, or any sort of distraction in class, that's a violation. Your teacher's going to call you on it. You need to try to focus on schoolwork because there's a reason that the education is going on in your classroom. We want you to focus on that. Watching videos when you should be doing other things, that's a violation again. That's also another example of just sort of off-task use. So if you're watching videos in class, that's a sign that you're not focused on what you should be focused on. We think that you can be really successful as a student here, but in order to do that, we expect you to follow some basic rules. Distracting email or messaging is going to cause problems in class as well. So if you're focused on email, you're focused on messaging while school is in place, that's going to get in the way of your learning. Also taking pictures and videos during class, definitely not okay. You have to get permission for that. Removing your district case is a problem too. Keep your case on it. any sort of off-task technology behavior. So anything that you do on the iPad that you would be doing the same thing in real life, we want to treat that as a problem that we're going to have to address. That's going to lead to things like warnings, in-class consequences, somebody calling your parent, giving you a spot up in the front of the class, or putting you in a spot where the teacher can pay attention to you. Actually, in a sense, putting you on blast, putting you on guided access so that you have only limited things that you can do with your iPad in class. And then, honestly, removal of your device is a possibility. Not that, these are all sort of negative things. We know that you're probably not going to be doing that, but we also want you to know that what happens in class is the most important thing, and what you're doing with your iPad needs to be secondary and only when it's allowed. So repeated minor violations are going to lead into something that we call major violations. So these become problems. That's accessing someone else's device or account, so using somebody else's iPad without their permission, or just using somebody else's iPad. Cyberbullying or harassment, that's a serious thing. We take it very serious. We don't have a sense of humor about it. We expect that you are conducting yourself as a respectful citizen when you're using your iPad. Altering profiles or security settings is a serious problem and is going to lead to results. Sending assignments with the intent to cheat or copy somebody else's work would be the same as copying or cheating somebody else's paper in a class. We treat it exactly the same way. Any sort of inappropriate pictures, videos, or searches, so looking at inappropriate content online, especially during the day, or at all for that matter, is a violation. We don't want you to be using district-issued equipment for that. And again, of course, intentionally damaging your device or cover is going to cause serious problems. That's a very expensive device. We want you to take care of it. And then, like we were saying in the last slide, if you're doing the same thing over and over again, constant minor things, that's going to lead to what we consider a major violation. And here's that's going to lead to. That's a referral to the office. So if you've been redirected, an administrator is going to come, take your iPad, and put restrictions on it. That could also have school consequences. That will probably mean a meeting with your parents and guardians, some sort of restitution, potentially. So making up for the lost time or the damage that happens when you damage the equipment. You could lose your network privileges, so you don't have access to the internet. You may get a more restricted device. You may have an alternative assignment. It could lead to suspension. It can lead to actual police interventions. Now, all that being said, we don't want this to happen. We just need you to know the parameters that would happen should you decide that you're going to do something that would be considered wrong or a major violation. Some additional things that could be put on your iPad, just so you know, we can turn off iMessage, we can turn off FaceTime, we can disable Game Center, we can disable AirDrop, we can disable any sort of in-app purchases for the apps that you've got access to. We could set the ratings of the media content that's allowed for you to have access to, and then we can actually turn off the App Store for you. Some things about apps that may have changed from your use last year for those of you that are returning with an iPad. And for those of you that are new, you should know about the policies about that. The App Store is disabled. Approved academic apps are available to download through what we call the self-service app, and there's a specific icon on the screen for that. Self-service allows you to download specific apps and the specific apps only. You can't just download anything you want to. The point here is we want you to use this for academic purposes. Additional academic apps will be added to the self-service throughout the school year as your teachers request it. So in order for you to get additional apps on your iPad, you're going to need to work with your teachers to get those apps that work for your academic purposes. So what will happen if I download an unapproved app? Here's some things. An alert's going to come to our supervisory system. We have a system that's monitoring sort of the use of your iPad on a regular basis, and that's going to be alerted. Tech staff will then contact the administration, and just so you know, your parent parents will be contacted, your guardians will be contacted, and your iPad will be placed on restriction. That will probably mean that an administrative person will come to you, take the iPad, and the iPad will be taken from you for a short period of time, or it will be placed on restriction and then returned to you. We don't want this to happen, but should it happen, your first violation is a 1-month restricted iPad. Second violation is for 3 months, and then finally, if you continue to do this, that is going to be restricted for the remainder of the school year. Now, we don't want you to end up in this spot. We know that most of you won't, but we want you to know that there is a clear set of consequences for that. If you have a problem with your iPad, you can go to the for help in the Media Center, and there's lots of people that you can talk to. In our Media Center, that's Ms. Obando, or myself, or Ms. Chang, or any of the Media Center staff. Definitely come see us, and we can direct you to the right sort of people for help. So the last thing that we're going to ask you to do, your advisory teacher should have a QR code and a shortened URL that will appear on the screen on a presentation or a slide that we sent to them. And I'm displaying that right here in this video as well. So if you have time, go ahead and scan with the iNigma app this QR code on the screen right now. And that's going to take you to the student contract, which will ask you some basic information that you'll need to enter so that we can keep track of and have a central collection of information about the iPads and who's using the iPads here in the building. So we're going to ask you to fill out that student contract today during advisory, and we're going to ask you to do that now. So I'm going to leave this on the screen for sort of an extended period of time. If there is a problem downloading or getting to the student contract, please contact your advisory teacher. They should have a URL to that as well. So I'm sorry this was not a fun presentation, we needed to talk about what happens as a result of sort of negative behaviors with the iPad. We want you to know that the most of what you'll be using it for is very positive. I hope it's going to be helpful for you to be creative, to work at your own pace, to come up with new ideas, to find fun in what you're doing in school. But we need you to know that negative uses of the iPad have some consequences. So thanks for paying attention to this. I appreciate your time, and have a good day.